Thank you everyone for joining us. This webinar is being recorded, so if you do have to leave, not to worry, we'll make sure that we get that recording out shortly after. So thank you so much, and without further ado, I will pass it off to Ahmad Shor, co-founder for Insu Therapeutics.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Sincere thanks for your participation. I want to first, before we dive into the presentation, thank Abby, Shaf, and Victory Square for hosting this and facilitating this session. Before we start the presentation, I would like my two colleagues, Tom and Anu, to share their backgrounds. Go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anu Singh. I'm an associate professor and endowed professor in food and beverage innovation at the University of British Columbia. The technology around the buccal insulin tablets originated from our lab based on our past experience. All of this journey started when I took up the Banting Fellowship at the University of Toronto at the Banting and Best Research Center, and got a very close chance to work with a lot of diabetes experts over there, trying to understand why even after 100 years of delivery of the discovery of insulin, it still has to be injected in most of the cases. So we started that journey. Also, there's something personal. My father has had diabetes for the last 25 years, type 2 diabetes, and very recently he has also shifted to injections. So we are trying to solve that problem, which is affecting a lot of people. With that, we discovered the technology, took the patent out, and we will show some of the details about that in the presentation today. So that's it. Over to you, Elliot.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Tom Elliott. I'm a diabetes specialist. I've been doing it for 32 years. And these are exciting times. I call it the diabetes revolution. I've got 3,000 patients in my clinic taking insulin. And I'm sure if there were an option that did not require an injection, that was safe and approved, and in the pharmacies, a significant proportion of them would make the change. Anyway, I look forward to doing my little part of the presentation. I'm here in Vancouver. If you've got diabetes or a loved one has diabetes, we'd love to help them.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Ahmad. I'm a trained pharmacist, and I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for an excess of 25 years in various functions that range from sales and marketing, clinical research, regulatory, licensing, and mergers and acquisitions. In the last several years, I have been supporting startup companies. And when Tom introduced me to Anu and presented me with this technology, I can see that it fits many of the key elements of a promising and near commercialization opportunity. Hence, our commitment, the three of us, to actually launch this company. To start the presentation. So what's unique about Insu Therapeutics, and I'm sure you guys have seen a million presentations and a million slide decks. We have clarity on what is it that we need to achieve, which is makes drugs. They refer to as peptides. These are large type natural drugs like insulin, like vaccines, like some anti-cancer drugs, become available in instead of an injection, but in an oral form. What's interesting about this unique opportunity is that we will be using an FDA already approved drugs. So our burden of proof and our accelerated pathway to commercialization is clear and much shorter than a traditional pathway. What's also interesting is the elimination of plastic injections and syringes has a major environmental carbon footprint impact. And as Tom will always repeat, everything what we're trying to do is about improving patient care. I think everyone on this webinar must know at least one or two people with diabetes. It's a growing major epidemic, and the numbers are staggering, of close to 500 million people, and the impact on the healthcare system is significant. close to $966 million. Insu Therapeutics is a young spin-off company from UBC based on Anubhav innovation and breakthrough discovery. Is going to target a major addressable population of diabetics. We have pioneered a novel, non-invasive, non-injectable form of delivering those type peptides with a initial focus on insulin. One of the clear advantages of this new form is that it's going to give us a product with a stable shelf life that does not require refrigeration. Remember how much of a challenge it is. Anybody with insulin who have to carry it through airports, through planes. Imagine how many people in Southeast Asia, remote areas in the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, all of them have no access of being able to use this insulin. And it's also, as mentioned earlier, the reduction of the environmental impact of removing plastic syringes. FDA-approved drugs, which put us on a very clear pathway to execute our preclinical and clinical studies with prior conversations with the FDA. This slide speaks on the huge and significant exponential increase of diabetes across the globe. It is one of the biggest crises we are facing, because diabetes may not, and Tom can speak to that, may not kill people by itself, but it's a major contributor of cardiovascular disease and kidney disease and in organ failure. Anu, hand the slide to you. You can speak about your breakthrough innovation.
Yes, so to introduce, our laboratory and our work, our laboratory mostly focuses on food and bioproducts, and there are two sub-objectives. Number one, how to extend the shelf life, and we are kind of waging a war on refrigeration technologies, trying to bring up products that are shelf stable and do not require refrigeration. And on the second stage, which is the focus of this presentation, how we can reduce the barrier of various proteins, various hormones, various peptides, which are tough to deliver via gastrointestinal tract. We are talking today about insulin. Insulin is a peptide hormone. The moment that you take it into your gastrointestinal tract, the moment that you ingest it, in simpler words, our body starts destroying it, and it is very difficult to get it absorbed. Throughout the last 20-30 years, a lot of attempts have been made. Some of them had showed some initial success, but ultimately all of them have failed, or are just a money burning investment if you try to deliver a peptide drug through the gastrointestinal tract. So we did very quickly realize that we have to find something alternative. So one of the best thing is aspirin. If you are aware of aspirin, the moment someone needs it, you just have to place it in your sublingual, below the tongue, and it acts as a very fast delivery method. So when we are talking about our facial, like the regions within the mouth, they are kind of a direct shortcut to the blood vessels. That is how we taste products. That is how a lot of digestion, initial digestion of the food and bioproducts starts happening. So our concept here is to deliver insulin via buccal membranes, which are the membranes between the gum and the cheek. A lot of products are already out there that are buccal. Insulin is also already out there. It is well established and well recognized by FDA, both the technology, the delivery route, as well as the substrate. Something that we are doing here is, which is different from other efforts around delivering insulin via the oral region, which is that other efforts have relied on sprays or have relied on these films without any control about where the insulin is going to be released. So generally what happens once you put that spray in your mouth or this patch in your mouth, then the insulin gets released directly to the saliva, and half of that saliva the patients unintentionally still digest. So that is the wastage of insulin. So that is a major drawback why that was not successful. Now here what we have devised a very, very small tablet. If you can see this tablet, just looks like this small. And this is the size of the tablet. This tablet has 3 layers in it. And this three layer, what it does is it only allows insulin to release from one direction, and it only allows insulin to release so that it directly goes into the mouth without getting a lot of wastage while getting absorbed by the saliva. So we make this layer. We also encapsulate the insulin to make it more shelf stable, to make it last longer, and then we press it into this very simple three-layer tablet. If we can move on. Now, once we do that, then we did some animal studies, and I think the next slide is about the animal studies. But on this slide, I wanted to let you know that we have, filed the patents for this technology last year, and this year we have also filed a worldwide PCT, and now we are filing the US applications, the non-provisional ones. So currently, there are three things which we have through this patent. Number one is an encapsulator. So chitosan is the traditional material. We have modified that chitosan to make it even more effective to deliver the insulin to the blood vessels. With our new encapsulator, approximately 70% more bioavailability of the insulin can be noticed. We have also a very unique tablet design. This is patented, like patent pending, wherein the insulin is allowed to release from only one direction. And together with the tablet and the insulin, this is our first proof of concept for buccal insulin tablets. Mind you, the insulin over here is only a platform that we are testing. Later on, we will be extending this technology to other peptides, something that are in current developments, are semaglutide and some other GLP-1 analogs, which we are already testing. Please move on. When we tested this technology in rats, we basically compared the buccal tablet given to the rats with the ingestion as well as injection. If you see the blue lines in these graphs, on the top graph, the blue line represents your injected insulin, which is a very fast acting insulin, and then the blood glucose comes down, stays there, and then once the insulin effects are over, it goes back up again. As compared to that, if you follow the red line or the brown lines where things are getting ingested, they are going down the GI tract. We have a very slow, almost 4 hours it takes for the insulin to reach the blood supply, and it never reaches the high levels. As compared to that, our technology is the purple one. So if you see the purple lines, you see that they.
Maybe while Anu is getting his audio and connection back to stable, the key messages behind these studies is confirming that the blood sugar lowering effect is intact, and it does perform as supposed to perform. Not only this, it also has a prolonged ability to extend that blood sugar lowering effect.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Welcome. I just talked about the blue line and the pink line so quickly.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think and we also see that almost all the insulin which was delivered to these rats, they were showed up on the curve. We can determine by the area under the curve, and ultimately we also saw where they ended up in the liver, where the insulin is supposed to land. So we have verified this technology completely with our experiments on rats, which were around, if I'm not wrong, 43 rats were tested. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, and once we got the results out last year, there was immediate media attention in more than 46 languages across all the continents of the world, without any payment or anything. This was done by UBC, and frankly, I have heard the comment that money cannot buy such a good media coverage. There has to be something good about the technology itself. So it has gotten many people excited. But the main thing that affects me most is the number of emails that I have gotten from, especially from parents of children. Currently, there are more than 100,000, approximately 80 to 90,000 new children below the age of 18 are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes every year. and it is a very bad ordeal for these parents. And they have been emailing me day and night, waiting to enroll their a child into some kind of a test, into some kind of a trial, so that they don't have to take the injection throughout their life. So that has really, driven us to commercialize this technology, not through public money. We could have done that in 10 years, but through private money, faster. We want to reach this technology to market by 2027. So the major advantage is, so as we have seen this pill, you just put this pill between your gum and the cheek. It stays there for 15 to 30 minutes, and as you all know, if you have been to a dentist or have a dental pain, the nerves endings are right there, very near, so the insulin can directly reach our blood vessels and get transferred throughout the body. So over to you, Doctor.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amadji.
Yeah, you know what? Once again, thank you, Anu. We're talking about you're not going to see many life science biotech companies that also uh, uh, has a major environmental and sustainable impact. And we've seen data on a study coming out of India where it shows that there are 65 million Indians with diabetics using 160 million syringes and 50 million needles of pens every year. And that is equivalent to 600,000 kilograms of carbon. So just, we didn't run the math, but the amount of carbon footprint, positive carbon footprint contribution to this company is going to be massive. As I mentioned earlier, we have a very clear pathway working with the FDA and the European Medicine Agency for the EU, what requires us now to take the animal studies that Anu have done on rats into larger animals. And we have been told by the animal study experts that dogs makes excellent candidates for these kind of studies. Those studies are also animal friendly studies where you basically measure the blood sugars and take blood samples for the blood sugars. So there's the animal study program. There is a human study program that Tom is going to show you the details of it. And there is a very defined, clear pathway to the FDA. One of the things that I've seen through my career that many companies rely on their internal expertise and knowledge to design their programs. All of us subscribe that of utilizing the known FDA open dialogue and discussion. So very soon, we will actually commence our communication with the FDA. We will be presenting to them the equivalent of a business plan where we say, here's our animal study design, here's the number of animals, here's the protocols, here's how we're going to measure the effectiveness of our Insu tablets. For the human study program, we're going to show them the human study program that talk about dose optimization, base delivery, timelines, and endpoints in both type 1s and type 2, and Tom will show you the details. And then we will be working also with FDA top regulatory experts to help us through the entire process. This is just a more detailed representation of how we're going to approach our clinical study programs. And as I mentioned, because the most important part of such technology is the drug that we are using, which is FDA approved, and our suppliers will be FDA approved suppliers. All the big work like cancer drug, toxicity, all of these details about the nature of the drug already been covered, and the FDA knows and about the drug itself. So our responsibility as Insu is being able to show that this new delivery method of insulin delivers the insulin the way it is intended to be delivered with an equivalent doses to injectables. Tom?
Thanks, Ahmad. That's great. So, Ahmad wears many hats. He's our regulatory expert and sketched out for you in the previous slide the traditional approach to approval. I talked about the diabetes revolution in my intro, and I used the word revolution because everything is changing so quickly. I'm in the business and I'm working flat out to keep up with it. Part of the problem is, of course, that I'm inventing stuff myself, and what I'm going to show you after this slide is going to be a fast track to approval for buccal insulin. Now, I have a placebo of one of these tablets in my office. It's, I don't know if you can see it, it's very little. You just stick it up here, wait 20 or 30 minutes and have your meal. That's the way it's going to work. So the diabetes revolution, in my business, it started with virtual care with COVID. It went with the addition of a continual glucose monitor that gives sugars every 5 minutes, which is part and parcel of the invention I'm going to show you. Automation, which allows for people with diabetes to live without having to actually program in their shots. And then, of course, the buccal insulin delivery, which we're talking about today. Next slide, please, Amar. So, I mentioned the 3,000 patients in my clinic. What would they say bothers them about insulin? Well, number one, it's got to be injected. It's painful. No matter how you couch it, the bloody thing hurts. And people would do a lot to avoid that. There are lots of people who need to be on insulin for glucose control who don't take insulin because of fear of the injection. So it's a major obstacle. And then, of course, the slide up there talking about accessibility issues and supply chain. We're right in the middle of a supply chain problem with Ozempic, the world's biggest selling injectable drug. I'm pretty sure that Anu can figure out a way to put Ozempic or drugs that come up after Ozempic into the same buccal delivery. Plastic waste. Here's the safety container. Every one of the 16 rooms in my office has one of these, and they get filled up once a week. It's a big deal. Next slide. So the automation of insulin delivery, or the artificial pancreas, is what has freed up tens of thousands of Canadians with type 1 diabetes. And you can see that they have this device called the CGM that measures their sugar every 5 minutes. They've got a pump. And what happens with the artificial pancreas, or automated insulin delivery, is that the sugar goes to the smartphone. The smartphone has an app which then instructs the pump to give the right amount of insulin. We're going to use that technology to fast track the approval of our buccal insulin. Next slide. So every one of my patients who's wearing a continuous glucose monitor gets one of these tracings. The green line is the sugar. And this person happens to be on an artificial pancreas, and you can see these blue rectangles. That's the system giving them little shots of insulin, and then they're giving them additional shots of insulin after this meal. That spike in sugar is caused by a meal. Next slide. The secret of this system is that we can use people with type 1 diabetes to test this drug. So imagine a series of experiments. You've got someone on an artificial pancreas, and they eat a standard meal, and the blue line and the dotted orange line show you how much insulin they need for their standard meal. The other lines, the green, the orange, the purple, and the black, show what happens to the insulin requirement as we increase the dose of the insulin in that tablet under the gum. And this is how we're going to prove that the insulin is getting in there in the right time, how we're going to show the pharmacokinetics and convince the FDA that it's time for approval. Next slide. That's it for me. Thanks, Ahmad and Anu.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you, Tom. Here is just an overview of the anticipated timelines. We are right now almost ready to go in terms of our setup. We've already, the word CDMO on the second line, meaning these are companies that will take the methodology of how Anu was showing you how he puts the tablet together, and they take it to a large scalable production facilities, and they start producing mass production for testing the scalability and the stability of the tablet. So once those batches are produced, they usually put them in ovens to test the shelf life. And that is the batches that we're going to use to test it on the dog study that we talked about, which is slotted right now for Q1 and Q2 2024. These studies are short in nature. They do not take a long time, which will be followed by another animal study if needed to optimize the dosing, and the FDA human studies that Tom has just shared with you. Always people in the world of finance, they want to know what are equivalent companies. I picked those companies because they are in the diabetes business. There are a lot of companies that have been trying to have different delivery methodologies to different drugs. So these ones I picked because they are in the diabetes space. And eye structure or mankind, you can look those up and verify their current market cap. It's up and down depending on the markets. And mankind, the third company was the company that launched an inhaled form of insulin, and they are FDA approved. So one of the things that we are going to do is that we're gonna look at their animals, their programs, trying to replicate them, but adding Tom's innovative approach to those clinical studies. This slide shows two pieces of information. One is about the number of lives and our Insu Technologies, or the Insu tab, is going to impact, is going to be reaching out to more than 1 million people in a short period of time. And any which way we decided to look at the forecast, even of a very small percentage of capturing the type 1 and the type 2 diabetes markets post-launch, we are talking about an excess of $100 million in revenues by capturing only a small portion of that massive population. And you can see how the numbers become bigger and bigger. Even if you divide the patient acquisition by half, you're still talking about major revenue streams coming to the company. We hopefully have an expertise to know what we are doing with our collective knowledge. These are also our supporting team. Dr. Singh and Dr. Young both have the academic and the applied technology know-how to help us drive the execution of this program. Just to recap, we have a patent pending. Not just that, with the help of UBC, they've done two things. One, they have generated a legal opinion letter on the patent from the patent firm that UBC retains for those applications, and this letter is in our hand. Number two, we know that we are bypassing the traditional pathway to deliver drugs via GI tract and try to just coat it with something. We are going to a known pathway through the mucosal buccal of the mouth. We are using known and approved drugs already, which accelerate the FDA approval process, i.e. Health Canada, also the Europeans. We will be able to make sure that more patients will have access to insulin because there's no issues with refrigeration anymore, and will accelerate more people who need to be in insulin take insulin, because we are overcoming the issue of fear of the needles. And we will be able to then find the right partners of having a big and scalable technology. And as a matter of fact, when we start talking about this technology, we'll start thinking about if insulin was invented in Canada, wouldn't it be great if we actually bring the insulin production back to Canada? And this becomes even a bigger dream. And Anu even is talking about one of his research programs is about how to manufacture insulin more effectively than the traditional method. So think about the big dream of us not having to deliver insulin in a much easier and friendlier way, but also have Canada becomes the leader of not just inventing, but also manufacturing of insulin. So these are the key features that we would like to share with you about the company. Please feel free to ask questions. Do we have any questions? Abby, is there anything we need to address?
Just looking here. Oh, we do have a question here. From Gabriel, do you see in the Q&A section here? So.
I see the question about the IPO strategy and at what valuation. We are open for discussion on what is the best methodology to actually move the company forward and ensuring it is well capitalized. So we are open for all kinds of discussions on this. The valuation that is open also for discussion. We are looking at comparators, discount market values. So the answer is we are open for dialogue.
And there is a question I do see in the chat section as well. Are there any known competitor in this space already?
We know that there are other companies in the buccal mouth delivery, but they are not in the diabetes space. Am I right, Anu?
Yes, you're correct. Yeah.
We will be the first in the diabetes space. Okay.
There's a few more in the Q&A section, Ahmad.
Sure.
So we have, is the idea to take it all the way to commercialization or to sell to big pharma? I'm not sure if that's been something you guys have been thinking about. That's a question we have there.
Okay. Having been on the side, I'm gonna question for the Gabriel questions about big pharma. Having been on the side of big pharma, looking at the new innovative technologies, absolutely, when partnership and licensing is always a viable option for a startup company because they have the capacity, the know-how, and the infrastructure to properly launch this. We are definitely open to this, and something I have learned, having been on the other side, that when is the best time to approach big pharma? One, generate adequate milestones in the company that will allow you to earn that place of getting their attention, i.e., complete the formulation and the validation studies. So now you're showing them that your technology has been validated and can be commercially produced. And number two, complete your animal study program per FDA input. Once you have these two parts done, you are then ready to actually start going into the key players in the space and start talking about licensing and partnership discussions. There are many companies that have technologies to deliver medication like Lexeria Biosciences. Lexeria claims to be working on a delivery system for diabetes and GLP-1 drugs. The company has been a money burning and dilution machine. How will the company succeed? And I think you know their technologies, or you can speak about that.
Yeah, sure. From a quick lookup on Lexeria, it seems like they are trying the traditional GI track delivery. We have a lot of attempts that have been made trying to deliver insulin via the GI tract and other GLP drugs. What happens? So why is it not possible? So although there is some availability that people have been able to achieve, the main problem is the huge amount of wastage. So currently the bioavailability is less than 20%, which means that you need around 5 to 10 times the amount of insulin or any other GLP drug. And with these insulin and GLP drugs, the main costing factor is the amount of these drugs, and these drugs are the most costliest. So that is the reason why other companies have been facing trouble. In comparison to that, why we are better? We are better because we are completely bypassing the GI tract. We are not trying to play with the very tough conditions in the stomach or try to use inhibitors, which although it may help us, but it may also have a lot of side effects eating these inhibitors. So we are directly trying to deliver insulin through the buccal tract through a direct route, which is well proven, which is actually employed for drugs like life-saving drugs like aspirin, etc. So we are using that route. what roadblocks can you encounter that would delay approval of your technology? We do not anticipate any major roadblocks at this point, at least until the clinical trials, the human clinical trials start happening. We have already proven it in rats. It is just a matter of gathering more data with dogs, and we will surely go to the phase 1 trial. I'm very, very confident about that. Now, when it comes to the humans, then there could be a lot of unknowns, and I think we have better experts, Dr. Elliott, who may have some comments around.
Great, thank you, Anu. And I do see a few more in the chat section coming up, if you guys can see them there too.
I'd like to jump in. Brendan, your question about children, I'm skeptical about children as well. They're the ones that we feel sorriest about giving shots to. I think ultimately our market is going to be adults. I agree with you that it's going to be tough to get kids to stick something in their gum for 15 minutes. I'm going to touch briefly on Brian's question about the proposed shortened timeline to commercialization. I'm speaking as a physician, not as a regulatory expert. Ahmad's going to come in with some caveats after it, but we're applying for a patent on this technology that allows for the testing of the absorption of insulin using the artificial pancreas model, and it will require ethics approval. And once we've done the studies, and once we've shown, if we can show that the drug is absorbed effectively and in the right amounts, then I will be surprised if the FDA doesn't look closely at it. Ahmad?
I totally agree with you, Tom, because one of the key items, and you shared that with me, Tom, earlier, is that many of the previous endeavors to have alternative routes to deliver insulin did not apply the new technology of CGM and the ability to track that quickly. So now with merging the technology with the treatment, I think the FDA is very open to that. I know that they have made it in public statements that they are open for dialogue about breaking and stepping away from the traditional pathway. And this pathway, we believe, is backed by science, by clinical expertise, and we'll be able to present a very compelling case for them. Because who's going to decide? The FDA, when it comes to clinical studies, there'll be someone is like Tom sitting in Maryland as a consultant. So they're both going to be talking about their patients. And I have been in those discussions before, but it was only in the area of cardiology. And it was 3 cardiologists talking to 2 other cardiologists representing the company. So it would be more of a grounded dialogue versus a bureaucrat talking to an MD. And that's why I really support Tom's view on this.
Yeah, and just jumping in on it. Insulin does one thing and one thing only: it lowers sugar. So if you can measure the way the sugar is lowered minute to minute, that's, we know it's safe as long as you don't make people go low. So I'm very positive about a shortened timeline. I can't wait to do it, actually. It's in the bad old days, we'd just give it to somebody without getting ethics permission, but we'll do everything the right way and have an answer pretty quickly.
Abby?
All right, I think we have time for a few more questions here. So I do see in the Q&A section here. Okay, is there significant interest in this company doing an IPO? Is it better than staying private? I hear that private companies are generally getting better evaluations than public companies currently.
Right now, our exclusive focus was in executing our business plan as we laid it out and create valuation for the company. And at the right time, once we have achieved key milestones with the company, then we will reassess the situation, also depending on the climate in the marketplace.
Great, thank you, Ahmad.
Abby, there's a question in the chat about roadblocks for the shortened timeline. I mean, from a doctor's point of view, we just have to make sure that the tablet releases the insulin, predictably, and that's where Anu's lab is key to make all that to get all that perfect.
Shaf is in Japan, hence he could not join us today.
He was unable to join at this time, just due to a conflict of time there, as he's there with Victory Square, representing Victory Square with actually Launch Academy as well. But there are some good questions here, so I will make sure that he's able to address those and can hop on probably a next webinar and follow up with those for you guys for sure. So I am just taking note of them. But Amon, maybe I think you could share a little bit of
You know
how.
what? Yeah. Well, Shaf and I have known each other for a long time, and there was a time when Victory Square was during the height and the early days of COVID, where they have started exploring bringing a practical solution to COVID epidemic. And this is where my relationship, the working relationship I have with Shaf, have started in the diagnostic space for COVID. And before that, we also try to look at the various digital health programs that they have. They also very successful in the other company called Hydrate, which is also in the medical space. So Shaf and I have had that long-term relationship. As it relates to the business details of the relationship, we'll have Shaf and I can address that with you directly, Gabrielle. Did you talk about runway? No, we did not talk about the runway needed, and we have created a separate document. If you like the company, if you like what we try to do, if you like our execution plan, we have a detailed document that talks about all the critical steps and all the user proceeds and where they're going to be allocated. So Jeremy will be more than happy to give you more detailed information on that. And we are all local, and my guess is most of you are local. If need be, and you want to have more face-to-face discussions, we will be able to help facilitate that. And we can also help facilitate having you see Anu's lab and where he created all the science and how he makes those tablets. So this is not just a virtual story. This is an actual story where you can touch, see, and the pill and how it is made. Tom can show you how his patients are being equipped with continuous glucose monitors and how he teaches them how to use an insulin injection. So there is a brick and mortar aspect to what we do, which is I find really interesting at this day of age.
All right, thank you very much, Ahmad. And
Pleasure.
I think there is.
Is there a faster way to enter this outside the United States? It's an excellent question. Most people skip that question because 99% of the time in startups, medical devices, digital health, and biotech, the entry to the European market, Southeast Asia, and Latin America tend to be much faster. But in our case, because the drug is approved, having the FDA blessings simultaneously, we can apply for, when we apply for our final FDA approval, we can simultaneously apply for the EMA approval. One of the key issues that we're very cognizant of, that our insulin supplier is going to be an insulin supplier that has their insulin approved in Europe and in the United States. And the key suppliers of insulin, there are about 5 of them around the globe. Their product is approved in both sides of the Atlantic. That's why, in this case, the approval will be simultaneous. So we'll have a global approval by the European Medicine Agency and the US FDA. And by definition, securing approval by the FDA and the EMA, that means the entire Southeast Asia market will open up: Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand. Also, the barrier to the entire Middle East region, where it is the new big, and India, Middle East and India, where the big issue with pandemic of diabetes is there, was also opens up from a regulatory point of view. What happens if the tablet is swallowed? That's a simple answer. Anu, what if somebody swallows the tablet?
Oh, if somebody swallows the tablet, then they still get insulin, but a smaller amount of the insulin. It is, very safe. It is just like we will have to talk to the doctors around that. But I think the recommendation will be to take another tablet, because that bit of tablet will be destroyed by the stomach.
And insulin will be broken down by the gastric
Insulin will be broken down, so we do not have any cases where there will be overdose or anything. So it will actually be an underdose if you swallow the tablet. But it is tough to swallow that tablet. Once you place it, it is actually difficult to take it out.
Yeah.
Because it has a bioadhesive layer. It's a very small 3 mm, 5 mm tablet, as I've shown you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us today too. And if anyone did want to request any additional information, like Ahmad did share, we can definitely make sure that you get connected with the team, and they can follow up with you. And we'll see if we can get another webinar on too, with Shaf, to kind of go over more of those other questions that some of you were asking too. I think that would be beneficial. But we're really happy to have you guys join us and share about Insu Therapeutics and what you guys are doing. And for anyone that is based here in Vancouver locally, or might be coming into town and did want to see in real life, feel free to reach out, and we can see about connecting you to the team as well. So we're very thankful for you guys to join and to share insight into Insu Therapeutics with our investors and give them an insight. And I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about your team and what you guys are doing as you guys venture off into this next chapter for your company.
Awesome. Thank you, Abby. Much appreciated. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, everyone, so much. And we wish you guys a great rest of your day, and hope you have a safe weekend as well. Bye now.
Okay.